The HasLab Mos Eisley Cantina is slowly but steadily making its way towards the 8,000 backers needed for this project to go into production. The second installment of Populate the Pub is coming up next. Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to another video from All Things Star Wars Considered. As always, I'm your host Doug, and today we get into our next installment of Populate the Pub, better known as the Dive Bar Denizens. Now in our last episode, we talked about the HasLab Mos Eisley Cantina that they announced. As of the recording of that video, we were about 55%. At the recording of this video, we're around 64%. So we've added, 6, 7, 800 within the past week or so, maybe. It's a slow but steady march to the finish line. There's a lot of speculation out there. There's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of people with a lot of positivity. I think it doesn't really matter which camp you fall in. This is going to be what this is going to be. I'm not going to jump up and down and say the sky's falling. I'm not going to say, yeah, this thing is, going to make it by a landslide. I kind of fall in the camp of, I think this thing will back. I'm thinking that maybe we'll get Greedo. And that's kind of where I'm landing. I could be way off, but you know what? You know what you'll have to do? Tune back in on July 8th to see where we're actually at. So, we're going to get into this installment, and not quite sure where I'm headed with this. Today could be a one and done. This could be like the second installment, and we could be all done with this. It all depends on how smoothly this flows and how many characters that I actually spotlight today and how quickly I can get through them all. So stick around. Okay, so let's talk about around the bar. Now, for all intents and purposes, what I'm going to do in this segment is I'm just going to talk about the figures that are available. I'm sure people want to reach out and say, well, hey, you forgot about, so-and-so who was at the bar. Well, if they didn't make an action figure of them, I'm not going to labor the point, because we're talking about populating the pub, and we're talking about doing it with Hasbro figures. If you're a customizer and you've customized all the characters that Hasbro hasn't done, then great. But we're just talking, this is just kind of a general information video for fans out there that buy the Cantina and want to populate it with Hasbro figures. Okay, so like I said, we're going to start at the right side of the bar. When Luke and 3PO and R2 walk through the door, Luke's looking at the bar. We're looking at the right side of the bar. So at the very corner, and this is not a very good action figure, but we have the Praying Mantis Kid Cat. Now, it's not a great figure, but it's the only one Hasbro puts out, or has put out. And let's be honest, what does this figure need to do? He needs to stand there. And guess what? Kid Cat checks that box. Put him at the corner of the bar, have him stand there, and leave him be. Because that's all really he's going to do. But at least he doesn't have to sit in a booth. Because, he's got this weird skirt thing. It's not a great figure. The arms move. I don't even know if the legs move. Yeah, they kind of sort of move. I think if you took the skirt off. But at the end of the day, Kid Cat, put him at the end of the bar, leave him there. Next, we have Bo Sheck. Bo Sheck is another old figure, probably 20 to 25 years old. If I had to go back, he's probably at least 25 years old. But in any event, here's Bo Sheck. Now, he's got this weird arm thing because he's supposed to be holding his helmet, because he's never got the helmet on, so he usually just kind of has it in his arm, and because they pre-posed him, he's kind of got that arm thing going on. So I just kind of put it down and just kind of pop one of his arms up, kind of put a drink in his hand. What's he doing? He's just standing there. He's talking to Obi-Wan. he basically turns Obi-Wan onto Chewbacca, and that's it. And then he's gone, and you never see him again. So, is he great? Absolutely not. But he's there. He's standing there. He's not in a booth sitting, so he doesn't need to have articulated knees. He's got the gun at the side, which is kind of cool, and just standing there. And you know what? Because he's an old figure with a very poor likeness, not poor likeness, but compared to what they do now, this is the poor likeness. Because he's got no articulation and poor likeness, and he's an early figure, you can probably pick him up loose for real cheap money. And if you really want him carded, probably a little bit more, but it's not going to cost you a lot to add this figure into your cantina. Obviously, like I just got done saying, he's talking to Obi-Wan. Now, Hasbro is going to come out with a new Obi-Wan, but for right now, the Obi-Wan I'm using is the Vintage Original Trilogy Collection. The kind of the early stages of TVC. So I've got him there. Maybe I'll pick the new one up, keep him carded, and leave this one in there. If he's really, really good, I'll pick up a couple, open one up, and relegate this one to the Falcon. I don't know. So you got Obi-Wan. Again, another character they're coming out with, Chewbacca. That's who Obi-Wan eventually talks to after Bo points him towards Chewie. Now, this is, I don't know, I think a New Hope Chewbacca. I don't know. There's so many of them. I got a bunch of them loose in a lot. So this is the one I use. The new one is supposed to have like different legs. So he's supposed to be a little bit taller because Chewie standing up towards talking with Obi-Wan, he's towering over him. So I think they wanted to kind of get the scale correct for once. So there is a new Chewie coming. If it's really head and shoulders over this one, then this one will get relegated somewhere else. Endor, I don't know. Bespin, but if so, then he goes away and the new one comes into the cantina. But if not, he's perfectly fine to stay there. Obviously, next to Obi-Wan, we're getting a new Luke, but the Luke I'm using is this one. I actually took I don't know if this is a Skyhopper Luke. Not really sure. I think it's Skyhopper Luke, repainted, and I put the Luke Stormtrooper Vintage Collection head on him, so he's got a good portrait. But he just basically stands there as well. So the new Luke will replace this one, but for right now, till I get the new Luke, this is the Luke that's standing there. Then we have our favorite Doctor, Dr. Evazan. Now, I've got him carded, and I just didn't want to take him off the card, so a couple of years back, I actually bought him loose on eBay, and I'm not going to lie, he's going to cost you some money. I think I might have paid $40 for him then, before this cantina was announced, so who knows what he might fetch now, loose, now. But in any event, I just didn't want to take him off the card, so I've got him carded and I've got him here. This is a great action figure. Obviously, it's vintage collection, so he's got a great portrait, great likeness to the character, a lot of articulation. Is it perfect? No. But for all intents and purposes, he's going to work out great in the cantina. Now, next to him, obviously we all know, is our good buddy, Walrus Man, better known as Ponda Baba. Now, you might be kind of looking at this and kind of going, something doesn't look right. Now, Black Series Walrus Man Ponda Baba is actually pretty cheap. He might have gone up since I picked this one up, but I think I paid like $9 for this. And it was not loose. It was in that original little Black Series box. The only problem with this figure is I hate the head. If you look at stills, if you look at movie shots, Ponda Baba's head was a lot bigger than that vintage collection or Black Series Ponda Baba. So what I did is I love the figure, I love the articulation, but I put the Power of the Force 2 head on it. It's not the greatest paint job, but it's more to scale. And I think this is a better representation of Ponda Baba than what we actually got in the Black Series and then later on in Vintage Collection, which is basically just repacked. But so in any event, I think this is a perfect figure for the cantina. As we make our way towards the front of the bar, we have Cabe. Now, this figure is not great. It is not. They originally put it out like it was probably, this figure might be close to 30 years old, 28 years or something like that. This thing is pretty bad. But he's this little diminutive character who stands at the bar waiting for a drink. He can barely reach it. So that's why I got his kind of hand up. He's reaching for his drink from our favorite bartender, Wara. He's not great, but he's probably fairly easy to pick up now, and he's probably fairly cheap. So if you just want to add Cabe to your cantina, it's not going to cost you a lot of money. It's not going to break the bank to put this figure in there. So that brings us more towards the front. In the next video or the next segment, I'll pick up from where he leaves off to back around to, geez, I can't even think who's at the very other far end of the bar. But when we come back, I'll have that all worked out. Thanks for watching. Okay, this next section is a little bit dicey. And the reason I say dicey is because some of these people are at the bar and some of these people are kind of in the vicinity of the bar. Like, like there's tables and chairs just off the bar, on the outskirts of the booths. So, it's subjective as to are they at the bar or they're around the bar. So, obviously, we did the other side when we came down, when we did Kiddick, Keedcack, and all that, all the way up to Cabe. Okay, then after Cabe, you see Danik Jericho. And Danik Jericho is just this weird dude. A lot of people call him the smoker. He's kind of got those tendrils that come out of like his cheeks. And he's got this little apparatus that kind of sits at his side. I guess it's kind of like the galactic way to do a hookah pipe. I don't know. He dropped one of his tendrils. See, these things don't stay in that well. But in any event, you got Danik Jericho, right? Grab that tendril before I lose it. Okay. Now, an interesting thing is neighboring leads. Now, are we going to hit the 14,000 to get neighboring leads? At this point, people are afraid they're not going to hit 8. I feel we're going to hit 8. I think we might get Greedo, but that's as far as I think we're going to go. Anything can happen. Well, like I said, at the end of the campaign, you're going to count the votes and see where we're at. But in any event, I think we'll at least get Greedo, but I don't know about neighboring leads. But you know what? You want to know one of the reasons why I'm not all that stressed about it? Because they've put out neighboring leads. Now, is this figure anywhere close to the vintage collection one that they're teasing? No, of course not. But you know what? He's there. He's got his 4 arms. He's there. You stand him at the bar, and you know what? He's a placeholder. Who knows? Maybe we do get neighboring leads. Maybe later on, Hasbro puts him out as a Pulse exclusive 3-pack, 4-pack. So we may get him anyways. But in any event, if we don't, we still have him. Okay. So, again, around the bar. Jawas. Now, this is an off-world Jawa. You know what? Could work. Doesn't necessarily have to be a Tatooine Jawa. You know what? Guess what? You can use the Jawa from the Disney Droid Factory Sandcrawler. I wouldn't advise using this, but you could, right? You know what else you could use? You could use a Kenner Jawa. I'd actually rather use this than that junky Droid Factory Jawa. But you know what? Jawas scattered throughout. You see them. You see the eyes. Especially they're near where Luke gets tossed when Dr. Everson, throws them. There's Jawas there. So you can put a couple there. And it doesn't matter. Hasbro ones, Kenner ones, Disney ones. Doesn't matter. Okay. Moving along. Now, I'm only going to show you one of these. There was actually 2 of them. These are the Duros. There's actually 2 of them conversing at the side of the bar. Now, I only have one, but, I mean, if you can get these cheap enough, put a couple of them standing there talking to each other. Are they great? No. 5 points of articulation. This was well before TVC, but you know what? They're standing around the bar, so have them stand around the bar, because if you wanted them to sit around the bar, they wouldn't be doing it. Okay. Then it gets a little dicey around. You end up seeing Herchak Calfas. And here's one that I have not picked up loose. Again, like I said earlier, if the Cantina comes and I haven't picked one of these guys up loose, this baby's getting open because my Cantina is going to have just about every character available in it. So, again, is this a great figure? That's not bad. But you know what? The Legacy didn't put out a lot of bad figures. They just don't have the quality of the vintage collection today. So I think if Hasbro wanted to go back, they could kind of tweak this figure and maybe, use some of the new technology to kind of improve on them. But this isn't a bad figure for the Cantina. Another one, kind of at the bar, but kind of off the side of the bar, is Lisa Serlin. Now, this is an odd character. I'm glad I picked this figure up. She's got like this kind of silvery bathing suit type of thing. She's pink skin, bald-headed, go-go boot type of thing. I mean, it's a crazy figure. But you know what? Will look great sitting around that Cantina. So I would put her probably towards the end of the bar. Two other characters that are there that I haven't mentioned, but I have mentioned, is the Tonicas. The Tonicas are at the far end of the bar, on the opposite side, probably maybe right across from where Bo Sheck is. Across the bar, that's where the Tonicas are. So, if those come out, obviously they're going to come out if the Cantina comes out. So, if you get the Cantina, you're going to have the Tonicas. Now, how is that going to work? Because they're going to be more valuable on the card than they are off the card. So that's going to be tough. Well, keep in mind I have the Funky McClunky ones that my buddy George painted up. And yes, are they vintage collection quality? No. The paint job is, but the sculpts are great, but they're more Kenner-esque. So I probably will use them so I can keep the Tonicas carded. So that kind of takes care of around the bar. Now there's a lot more characters. Actually, let's see. I want to say that he was off to the side sitting, but then at one point he was at the bar, and that is Zutton. Now, when they first walk in, Wurra starts yelling at Luke about the droids. You see Zutton kind of in the foreground, and then when they pan over to Wurra yelling at Luke, Zutton all of a sudden is at the bar. So this is one of those characters, I think he's sitting just off the edge of the bar, but at some point he makes his way over to the bar. So it's kind of tough, but in any event, does it really matter? You're going to pick this figure up and you're going to put him in the Cantina. So the reason he's carded is because I actually picked up two of them, and the uncarded one is in the Cantina right now, but I have so much crap on top of it that I couldn't get to it, so I could actually pull him out to show you him loose. But yes, I do have one of them loosed, and he'll feature prominently in the Cantina. So that wraps this segment up. It's getting crazy. Okay, now, we always talk about, hey, you, those droids, they're not allowed. They'll have to wait outside. They're not wanted here. They're not welcome here, right? That's the first words out of Wurra's mouth when Luke enters the Cantina, when 3PO comes popping up behind him, and R2's not far behind that. Well, you know what? Hasbro did a really, really nice job, at least based on what I'm seeing. I mean, obviously, I don't have it in front of me. Like we always say, you can't review something that you don't have in hand. But from all indications, it looks like that front little entryway is really, really done well. It's got the droid detector in there, and it's got the 3 chairs. I think I'm going to actually create some sort of little bit of a, I don't know if I say I want a roof, but there's like a light fixture that kind of hangs down in there that was very distinct, and I would really like to add that. But in any event, you're not going to have the droids in your Cantina, are you? No. But you are going to want to have them at that little entryway. So here's the easy thing. How many 3POs have they put out? How many R2s have they put out? Plenty. So it shouldn't be hard. So I'm using I think they re-released this figure a few years ago on Vintage Collection. It actually shows up on the Empire Vintage Collection card, but it's the original image, the original card back. It's just got the Empire logo instead of the New Hope logo. So this 3PO will be at the front, but feel free to use just about anyone that you've had, even the original one, which is really, really bad, but he's probably the cheapest one. A lot of people like the Endor one, where he's in the throne, the Ewok throne, because he's vac metal and he's fully articulated, you know. So use that one, use this one. This is the one I choose, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. As long as you have 3PO in that little room. Same thing with R2. I don't know. I think I picked this R2 up. I think I got him for nothing. He ended up in a lot or something. I don't know. Is he great? Nope. But you know what? He's just in the entryway being told by Warwick to beat it. So, again, two simple figures that aren't going to run you a whole heck of a lot of money, and they will add to your cantina display. So, okay, let's move on. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. So a lot of fun. It's kind of like reminiscing, going back, you know, down memory lane, because, you know, you're looking at figures that you haven't looked at, you know, really closely in quite a few years, you know. A project like this will do that, you know. It kind of brings all those figures back up out of the woodwork that you kind of had forgotten about. But, you know, if you've got the figures, then this won't be too bad of a project for you to back, because obviously it's not going to cost you a lot of extra dough on top of the initial investment of the $400 to $500. You're going to have to pick up the Luke, the Han, the Chewie, the Ben, but those will be main releases, and you'll be able to do that at retail. So that one won't sting too much. It's going to be like the Dr. Eversons of the world, that, you know, a vintage collection that are going to be a little bit more costly to try to add to the cantina. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe Hasbro, if this thing does get backed, puts out some, you know, army builders, or, you know, those battle packs. You know, that would be nice. You know, only time will tell. So I'm going to start to wrap things up. Want to thank everybody for the continued support of the channel. If you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button so I can continue to bring you that valuable Star Wars content we've all come to know and love. If you like the video, give that a like, because obviously that helps the channel as well. I always do that, but you would think that doing 30 of these videos, you know, it would roll off the tongue, but not always so much. If you have a question or a comment, please leave it in the comment section, and you know, as always, I always get back to each and every one of you. Want to wish everybody a great day. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next video. And as always, may the Force be with you. We don't serve their kind here. You're droids. They'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.